I would say. Our education system, if I look at it and think what year or years is it really designed for, I don't think it's a very good preparation for 2022.
Mm. I see what you're saying.
People might not think that though. Uh, People might not appreciate. They might be frustrated with their education, but not realize the extent of it. The reason why I want to pick on this is because I think a good thing to achieve today is just the extent of awareness around you. You really, I would say, you really need to. I don't think you can rely on our current institutions at all to turn you into someone who's going to thrive today, make the most of life.
Mm.
And therefore, I don't think we should give these institutions so much of our time. So, going back to Ken Robinson's book, firstly, quality of jobs matter, not just quantity. Quality of jobs matter, not just quantity. So, if the goal of one of the focuses of our system is to help people get jobs,
Mm.
then quality of job, it's easy to say we have X% unemployment because that's a metric about quantity, but quality is another thing altogether. And there will always be a lot of educational reform. But Robinson used to criticize the reform. He said these reforms are typically stifling the very skills and qualities that are essential to meet the challenges we face: creativity, cultural understanding, communication, collaboration, and problem solving. Education stamps us with an impression of ourselves that is hard to remove. And he says that even successful people, I always say, define successful, carry inadequacy about this. And then in the book, he even talks about how, as a society, we typically spend more on incarceration than we do on education. And there's a whole bunch of studies, but they wouldn't be up to date, of course. This was in the late 2000s, like the first decade. But then the other point is that he breaks down how technology changes at a compounding rate. Technology, I think Google is technology. Social media is technology, for better or for worse. Cryptocurrency is a function of technological progression, and that changes at an ever increasing rate. There's a breakdown in the book. He uses a metaphor of like an hour, and he talks about all the innovations that, like, if you compare how fast they're happening and how it's speeding up. So it's like 11 minutes ago, if like the last 2,000 years, I think it was, is like an hour. 11 minutes ago, the printing press was invented. That was in like 1440 to 1450, right? Then 3.4 minutes ago, so like eight or something minutes later, Morse code is invented in like 1838. Then keeps going. Like 2.5 minutes ago, radio, 1885. A minute and a half ago, or 1.6 minutes ago, black and white television, 1929. 54 seconds ago, fax, 1966. 41 seconds ago, the personal computer, 1977. 38 seconds ago, analog cell phones, 1979. 25 seconds ago, the World Wide Web. So, like, just getting faster. And where we leave off is 13 seconds ago, broadband, the year 2000.
Mm.
So I think he's looking from that time period backwards. So you see, like, the speed with which technology is compounding. My 1950s quip is around how much does education change in that time? And then a follow-on question: how on earth would an education system, and the idea that we could reform the education system, how the hell would it keep pace with that? That is the last example, Luke, was in 2000. This is 22 years later.
Mm.
It's only sped up more since then. If no one understands compounding, think about how fast COVID spreads. Traditionally, like, it just takes a couple of cases, then cases are rising faster and faster and faster. That's the exponential growth rate. So the
It's
question, Luke, here's a even more difficult question for you. And I don't know why you keep showing up to the podcast and getting these completely like out there questions. What do you think? What do we do? If How the hell do we reform fast enough?
mm. That is a tough question because I'm
It
just
is.
thinking.
Just unpack it with me, though. Obviously, I'm
Okay,
not
all
expecting
right.
you to save society, but unpack. What's the reality?
You just probably you have to create completely different learning environments. For example, I'm just thinking of university as an example.
Yep.
The way we learn these days, or the way I've learnt at least, and actually I was speaking to my brother about this, is really it's just such an active process. It's an active process. It's not depends on the skill. Definitely depends on the skill, but there was a lot of lectures, like programming lectures. We did like 2 hours, 2 hours sitting there and watching someone and learning concepts about programming. We could have easily spent those 2 hours in a lab. We did labs, for example, but those like another 2 hours actively learning would have been much more efficient than just.
Yeah. I think you've
This is
nailed it.
going too specific, but like it just has to change.
No. That really is perfect.
It has
I
to.
think that really is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea that I like the word active as well, because the idea that it's passive is that you're sitting there digesting something that's been given to you.
You're not making any connect. You're not like linking anything.
There's no neurons firing.
Nothing.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. That the passive consumption part, and I'd go back, like we've now done a lot of episodes on learning because it's a huge topic. It's an infinite topic. And the reason why this is very hard to communicate to people is that you really need to break it down part by part, which we're gradually doing. And the one I'd go back to is the just-in-time learning thing with Tim Ferriss.
Yep.
That when it's about information you need to receive, it's best to just do it right when you need it. So for example, you're building a new, technology, like, all right, just find out what's happening right now. All right. There's no point reading about what's happening right now if you're not going to take action, because in another 10 seconds, everything would have changed again. Right? You become an expert on DVD players, and now DVDs are gone and Blockbuster's out of business and Netflix is huge. And so it's much more about being actively engaged in the doing than trying to update a heavy bureaucratic system. And what might not be very tangible to people is that at some point, this is going to absolutely break, because it's only getting further and further away from technological change. And so that's big. So, I think be very conscious about how you're learning, because you don't want to be pissing in the wind. You just don't want to be pissing in the wind. That will do us for today. A reminder, the Dorman newsletter, it's one of the links you can sign up for, with just a once a week condensed summary of the podcast. And that's in the show notes or the description on YouTube. And but we'll be back again tomorrow, unpacking more Ken Robinson. And tomorrow's theme, which is very exciting once I refresh my memory on what it is. This is why you don't think you're creative.
Jeez, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, so we'll see you again tomorrow.